Good evening. Once again, it's another week with the Behind My Smile talk show. I am your host, Vinette Hoffman Jackson, this evening, coming to you from LUR Studios live in Luton and live on Facebook this evening. Wow, I usually start by asking, how was your week? Did you make anyone smile? And did anyone make you smile? Now, for most people, my kids absolutely hate it, but one of the things I do every single morning is I like to dance. I don't say I'm a good dancer, I don't think so, but I do like to dance. And I dance in my bedroom, I dance in my I always wake up happy. Not particularly a morning person, I would say, but I do get out of my bed happy because I do realize that I'm blessed to actually wake up each morning when some people may not have made it to the next day. So I always try smiling. First thing out of my bed is usually a prayer, and then, of course, a smile, dancing, some good Jamaican music. And this morning I woke up particularly happy. I don't know why. And I think I read my daily bread on a daily basis. And one of the things I decided this morning was that I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to allow anyone to actually steal my joy. So regardless of what is happening to me, I will remain positive and I will actually smile through the day. And it's interesting, as soon as you've made that commitment to yourself that you're going to be smiling, things inevitably started to go wrong. So I got up this morning and of course I'm smiling and dancing in my car. But the more I'm dancing, I pull up in traffic and I realize that I didn't realize it what was pushing me, to be quite honest. I was rocking to some good old shaggy reggae music at 7 o'clock in the morning. I know, not the type of beat so early in the morning, but that was my tune of choice this morning. And so I was actually dancing in my car, and I don't know if they were smiling with me. My son would probably say they were laughing at me. But I noticed quite a few people actually looking, and there were quite a few people. The cars next to me actually started pointing to say, "Look at her in the car; she might have lost it." But I was genuinely happy, and there was nothing specific or particular that made me happy. I was genuinely happy and just smiling and dancing and laughing. And most of you know I work in a school, and so I went into school and I continued the same thing, just dancing and being happy. And surprisingly, a few kids actually caught on and like, "You're in a happy mood." And I think automatically or subconsciously it actually transferred to them. So they became a little bit happier. They started smiling more. And so I thought, okay, that is lovely. And so I had a lovely day. So then I did what I needed to do, finish the day, and then I drove few miles, a couple of miles, well, 30 miles to come into the studio this evening to present my show. And you might notice that there's a blank space next to me. My guest was supposed to be here already, and I have tried contacting him several times, and I'm not sure if he's stuck in traffic. I'm not sure what is happening, but I tried reaching him for 4 or 5 times. So I'm hopeful. I'm still hopeful because I'm still going to smile. I am still hopeful that he will turn up in the next few minutes or so while my producer has gone downstairs to see if he's locked outside. So I'm hoping that Junior Alexander Watson, calling your name because I did publicize it on Facebook, will actually show up or just give me a call to say you're okay or you're on your way or something so I can know exactly how to structure this evening. Just in case my guest does not show up this evening, then what I'm going to do is probably lose Facebook Live this evening, so I apologize beforehand, and go to a recorded show for 7:30, going straight through to 8 o'clock if he's not in studio in the next 20 minutes, 10 minutes or so, then I know exactly what to do. His story is very interesting, and I don't want to kind of lose anything about it. But because I've asked people to log on to actually share his story, one aspect of his story that I found interesting had to do with the name, his name of choice. Now, it sounds like a very ordinary name, Junior Alexander Watson, but his story, I don't want to oversell itself or just take a little bit of thunder away from him. His story started at the early part of his life. His story started in childhood, where he got the opportunity that most of us would not necessarily get of choosing his own name. And the story behind this man that I really wanted to explore this evening was why did he make this choice and what resulted or what caused him to actually or put him in the position that he would have to choose his own name instead of actually being named. And I did quite a bit of research actually coming into this interview about names. And I was intrigued because my name in particular, I do get a lot of people asking me or commenting on my name, Vinette Hoffman Jackson, and asking me about the derivation of my name or how I ended up with that name. Hoffman, of course, is my maiden name. That is my gift from my father. I know it's a German name, and I know in the past I have sent applications in, and when I turn up, people are actually surprised that I am a Hoffman, because of course most Hoffmans are traditionally Hoffman is a very Caucasian name of German descent, and so I've had quite a few occasions where I've sent in an application, turned up, and people could not link the name with me because they thought, okay, I'm expecting someone different, and this is someone different standing in front of me. So I've had to explain myself about the Hoffmans or where I am from. The Jackson was my first marriage. I'm divorced now. Jackson was my married name, and when I got married, I changed my name to Bennett Jackson. And when I came to this country, I wanted to apply for my British passport. And at the time, I didn't have the required documentations. I didn't have my divorce certificate. I didn't have my marriage certificate. But I wanted to go back to Hoffman. I wanted to go back to my maiden name. And the person at the passport office told me that without any verification that I'm divorced, I couldn't just change my name from Jackson to Hoffman because of security reasons. And so we reached a compromise because I lost my old passport. We reached a compromise, and he said, okay, what if I hyphenate your name, David Hoffman Jackson? And at the time, I was a little bit hesitant. I thought it's going to be too long and it's too much of a mouthful for people to do dual syllable and then another dual syllable word. So it's really too long and extended. But over the years, I've come to embrace it and I've come to accept it as my name. And I'm loving my name now. I quite love Vinette Hoffman Jackson. It's a name that when you go and say this is Vinette Hoffman Jackson, it's not easily forgettable. People tend to remember the name. And so I am glad, even though it wasn't consciously done, it was subconsciously done, I retained it. So I'm sure my ex-husband does not mind that I actually just hijacked his name because I think it's nice and it represents who I am. And I've done everything in Hoffman Jackson. But looking at it from the perspective of the name, one of the research I did was in 1948, two professors at Harvard University published a study of 3,300 men who had recently graduated, looking at whether their names had any bearing on their academic performance. The men with unusual names the study found were more likely to have flunked out or to have exhibited symptoms of psychological neurosis than those with more common names. The Mikes were doing just fine, but the Beerens were having trouble. A rare name, the professor surmised, had a negative psychological effect on its bearer. Some recent research suggests that names can influence your choice of profession, where we live, whom we marry, the grades we earn, the stocks we invest in, whether we're accepted to a school or hired for a particular job, and the quality of our work in a group setting. Our names can even determine whether we give money to a disaster victim. If we share an initial with the same name of a hurricane, according to one study, we are far more likely to donate to self-relief funds after it hits. So quite a lot is involved in actually naming, although most people are not involved in their actual naming process and actually just a beneficiary of what their parents decide. And I know recently one of the things we were looking at when I was speaking to Nana, BBC Three Counties, was actually looking at some of the names that parents give children. And I distinctly remember when I had my first son, because my name was Jackson, people wanted me to name him Michael Jackson. And I'm so glad I made the decision at that point not to name him after someone else, but let him find his own identity and give him a completely different name instead of naming him after a celebrity. And then I did a little bit of investigation into celebrity name again, and it was actually blown over because Reginald Kenneth Dwight, I'm sure nobody actually can actually link that to anyone. Reginald Kenneth Dwight. And that was actually the name of Elton John, which is very strange. And then I had Kirk Douglas, who late Kirk Douglas, and he was born Isir Danielovich. So not a very popular name or not a name that you would actually remember or associate with a person that you've come to know. Uh, then we have Jennifer Aniston. Jennifer Aniston was actually born Jennifer Lynn Anastasakis. I hope I pronounced it right, but she's actually from Greek heritage, and so she has a Greek surname. So it's not very popular, and most people tend to change their names. And your names usually, there's something about your name because your name actually is an identification, but it represents you before you walk into the room. And one of the questions I wanted to ask Julia was if he could choose any name in the world, why did he choose that one? Or ask my viewers if you could choose any name in the world, what name would you choose to represent yourself? Would you remain with a name you now have that was actually given to you by your parents? Or would you change your name to be more representative of who you are as a person or who you want to portray? So that is a name, that is something I've been dwelling over for this evening, actually looking on whether or not if I had a choice to change my name, I, I would. I quite like Vinette. It's unique. I've met few Vinettes in my life. Hoffman, I know, is definitely unique, especially for a black woman. I don't see many people who are black that are named Hoffman, so I absolutely love that name. I won't lose it regardless of what. And of course, Jackson just happened to be my first married name. So even if I get married after, then I don't think I'm going to change that name. I'm still going to retain that name. I hope my husband is fine. But I'm still going to keep my name at Hoffman Jackson. It's just a name that I really, really love. Um, so I still haven't heard anything from my guest this evening. So we are probably going to do a repeat show on NUR9 when we log on Facebook. I'm very disappointed because it promised to be a very, very informative interview. So I hope he's okay. And he was traveling in from Letchworth, which was about 30 miles away. So I'm hoping that he's okay coming in, or he will get in touch with me really soon to say this is what is happening. And if possible, we'll try and reschedule that interview for Junior at some other time. Next week, we have, well, I'm hoping next week that we'll have a guest in the studio. Next week, my guest is going to be Ryan Park, and he's speaking to us about suicide, which promises to be very emotional and might get tissues in the studio because, of course, it's something that is touching quite a lot of people at the moment. If we don't know someone who has actually committed suicide, then chances are we know someone who has known someone who has committed suicide. So it's quite relevant now with a lot of mental health issues on the rise, and people are sometimes afraid to actually speak and share their stories, which was one of my main motivation when I started doing stories behind my smiles, because it's recognizing that people have stories behind their smiles. So even though someone might be smiling and seem quite happy and pleasant and happy, at the end of the day, sometimes they're hiding loads of different emotions that they don't want to come to the forefront, or they're afraid to be judged. And sometimes just talking about it helps to release the tension, helps a little bit of therapy. Some people write, some people speak. And from the many feedback I get from listeners, some people are actually empowered or inspired just to know that some people have gone through a lot and actually come out on the other side happy and more conscious, more focused, and contributing more to society. So I do hope the stories that I share on here do impact at least one person. If it changes your life, it inspires you, if it makes you look at something in a different perspective, then I think that is a success story. And that is what we try to do at the Behind My Smile talk show here at WR Live. So for Facebook Live, we are going to say good evening for this week. Next week, we'll be back on with another guest. I will still try to reach my guest if he's nearby or in the vicinity. I might come back on after the break and introduce or interview Junior Watson. But for this week, thank you very much and have a good evening. Remember to make someone smile. Bye.
You're at the McDonald's. We're just across the road from the McDonald's.
Okay, you
Across oh
okay, I think my guest is
on a
outside. I'm
second
trying to
road.
find the studio, so just hang on.
All right. You see where the McDonald's is. You see a crossing, a zebra crossing to the right hand side of McDonald's. Yes. No, 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 not Marsh Road. To go up Birmingham Road. Right. There's a first there's a bus stop there, and there's a gate. A, there's a bus stop, and there's a gate, a little white gate, just being put in, and we just got to come through that gate. Yeah, yeah, Marshall's. Yes, yes. That's
Sorry,
a,
thank
that's a,
you for
that's
being on this Facebook Live. I think our guest is trying to find his okay. Speak of mine. Probably his wife. What do we hope?
let me see what
We hope Facebook Live.
this is finished in 30 seconds.
Right, can you pop
Then
another
the
one
ad
on?
break is coming.
So bear with us. I know a few people are watching. Grab a cup of tea. We're just trying to see if our guest will actually make it into the studio. I think I think he got a bit lost, and so he's trying to find his way into the studio. It's not the easiest place to find, so just bear with us. Let us see if we can actually get him in the studio, because it would be a shame to drive so far and not getting an interview with him. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please do type in your questions or comments, or tell me where you're from, or like and share the video. I have been told I don't ask that enough, or I don't tell people to share the video. So like and share the video, and any comments, please just drop a line to tell me where you're listening from. Uh, I know we have Tesla in Trelawn in Jamaica. I know I have Robin. Hi, Robin. She's watching from the United States, a fantastic woman. So privileged to have met her. So thank you, Robin, for tuning in. I know we have Dr. Basingi actually watching. So thank you, Dr. Basingi. I know you're very busy. So thank you for taking the time out to actually be tuning in to us on NPR Live. We're hopeful. I'm praying that my guest actually finds his way into the studio so we can actually share an interview with him this evening. He is Junior Watson. He's a Jamaican. Never met him before. So it's the first time meeting him, and he has just shared a story over the phone. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing him. Hi, Chris. I know Chris is watching from Wales. So thank you for joining us. Yvonne, I can see you. Hi, Yvonne. So I've had a broadcast at NR Live. She has her program on Monday nights, 8 to 10. So you can tune into that for very hard eating pieces and a lot of conversations with Yvonne. And like, you might guess if you're just tuning in, I'm just trying to stall a little bit because my guest is trying to find his way into the studio. So hopefully he gets here in time for we can do the interview as soon as he catches his break. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. It's not the easiest location to find. So unless you're familiar with Luton, you tend to get lost. So I think that is what happened to me. So just keep it going until the producer can take it into the I should probably share things. Let me see what I can share with you as we wait for a guest. What if I share one of my poems? I hope I don't bore you, but I'll share one of my poems while you're waiting. Okay, I'll do Broken Things, which is one of my favorite poems. So I'll read that one. Broken Things. Broken clouds give us rain, but broken hearts cause us pain. A broken dawn provides new light, and a broken peace calls me to write. From broken earth, a new seed takes form. From broken trees, a fire grows warm. From a broken sack, new life emerge. On broken rocks, waves crest and surge. From broken cocoons, butterflies are born. But a broken heart leaves me quite forlorn. From a broken Messiah, we can look above. From broken hearts grows new love. Broken pieces give us things that are new. So maybe a broken heart will lead right back to you. That poem was actually written when I broke up with someone, and there was no animosity. And then I wanted it was just a process for me to get back to the person eventually, because sometimes we have to break to find our true inner self. So that was actually written for someone. I won't say who, but the person, if they're listening, will know that that was actually dedicated to them. Um, this is another poem I wrote with my mom, so I'll share this one. She followed, then furrowed, plowed and planted, and dreamt of a paradise sure and enchanted, to create a legacy for history to share. But the soil was rocky, no life could ever go there. Yet she continued to till, ever believing someday she will. And when the sun had almost set, she hung her head in deep regret, relinquishing all hopes inside. The dream she had long carried silently died. Yet somehow, in desperate need, by unknown miracles, found a seed, and with tired hands and heart weary, stretched forth and bestowed it upon me. And I saw reflected in her eyes the ruin of a soul that found no prize, buried under all the hurt, despair, and a silent moan. The flicker of hope, her dream may still be known, and in silent ancient tradition, to me, my mother's hope transitioned. So that was a poem that was written not for my mom, I think it was for my grandmother, who had the highest aspirations and really, really wanted to do so many things. And in the end, she didn't. She died, but I think in dying, she actually passed on all the hopes and dreams that she had. They might have seen a little bit of shuffling in the studio, so I need to just break it down to my guest. Just shut the camera up. Just turn it around so that you're on screen. Right.
Finally. If you notice how my hands are cold, it's because I've been walking around in this community trying to find the station.
I am so very sorry. You know what? I was gonna let him have it because Jamaican has a thing with this Jamaican time. You know,
No,
when you tell Jamaican 9 o'clock, then they're coming 12 o'clock. You know,
no,
I was coming.
not us. Not with my girl's wife. She is not one of those persons. She's not
That type
that
of
kind
person.
of person who will allow me to be late. I don't know.
Are they gonna give you 2 minutes just to catch your breath? Because I know you're rushing around. I did think of more or less that you had but I didn't have Trevor Fine. Thank you for waiting around for my guest to arrive. Thank you very much. And yes, Chris, sorry, I just saw your comment. It is my poem. I'll share some more on another occasion. Right, so our guest this evening, are we live? Anyone? Okay. Good evening again, LUR Live and Facebook Live. Thank you so much for people who decided to stick around on Facebook Live to share with us this evening. And welcome back to our listeners at LUR Live after that break. In our studio this evening, I have a gentleman who's from my home country, Jamaica.
Yay.
And please don't think we know each other because I think that every Jamaican knows every Jamaican. So, no, it's the first time. Junior, thank you so much for being a guest this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So we're going to start. We're going to have to probably shelve a little bit of the questions, but we try to get to your stories and try to see if we can share the stories behind your smile.
Okay.
Right. So we start the show with a simple question. Who are you?
Well, who is Junior? Junior is the sum total of all my experiences, hopes, dreams, aspirations in the future. So if that sums up one word, someone who is positive. So Junior is a positive.
So somebody who is positive.
Yes.
Right. So obviously you've gone through several journeys to actually get where you are now, this positive
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Where were you born?
I was born in the parish of Kingston, Jamaica, and I was born to two individuals who, as the program progresses, you realize that I won't say that it is mom and dad. I would say my birth, the lady who carried me for 9 months, and the man who gave her the sperm to carry me.
Okay.
But I have two people who I call mom and dad, not those two
Not those
persons.
two.
Right.
Okay. So you obviously know your birth parents. Did you
Yes.
grow up with your birth parents?
I spurts. I spent uh well, we lived at the same place on occasions, but even though the house was where they would come sleep, they weren't always there.
Okay.
So
Were your parents together at that point, or were they
no,
just
they
individuals?
weren't together.
Were you the only son of that union?
No, actually, I have 14 brothers and sisters. Well, technically 13 because I'm 14.
Right.
I have 14, well, 13 brothers and sisters with my mother,
Hmm.
and my father probably have another 5 or 6.
Okay.
I would put it at 10 out of street. So technically, I have 23 brothers and sisters.
Right.
If you add the adopted one, the
Mhm.
ones, then I will tell you that I have 26 brothers and sisters.
Did you grow up with all these brothers and sisters?
Again, in spurts.
Mhm.
So if I would break it down in timeline,
Mhm.
then I would say I would between 1974 to 1982,
Mhm.
I was in the country with my grandmother at some point.
Right.
So there were family members, siblings around at that time. Then I moved back to Kingston,
Mhm.
and then there were siblings around at that time as well.
Okay.
But predominantly, um, it was a case of even though you have older siblings, you still have a major responsibility of growing yourself.
Okay. So you were basically independent from a very early age.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Hmm.
Now you spoke about several things like moving from spirit with your birth mother and spirit with your birth father and your grandmother. Did you bond with any of your siblings? Were you moving together or were you moving independently of each other?
Um, we lived in the same house, and I tell persons all the time, I have this joint family relationship. I am not really close to any of my sisters and brothers. I would say I have some that are more dear to my heart, but even in that, we're not close because we don't speak at all.
Okay.
You know.
Right. So you
Mhm.
spoke about actually growing partially in Jamaica and in Kingston and then in the
Mhm.
country areas. What was school like?
I will tell you, I move though
Okay.
because of the family home setting
Hmm.
where you have two parents that are split, and because they are split, every now and then something happen that require you moving. And so even though, well, let me put it this way. If the Jamaican word will get thrown on the street or the
Okay.
phrase,
So eviction.
so you get
Right.
evicted.
Hmm.
So on numerous occasions, we were evicted from where we were living. And so at different point in time, I was living with other persons, right? So within that scope, school, as you ask about, was I never started school until I was about 10, 11,
10.
because I started school in grade 5.
Oh,
The
wow.
first time I attended a school, it
Mhm.
was in grade 5.
So
Um,
prior to your attending school, were you reading at home or doing any type of
no,
right?
my grandmother was one of those kind of person who she didn't have much, right? And the two persons who were responsible, one for carrying me for 9 months and the other who gave her the sperm to carry me for 9 months, didn't see it as their responsibility to provide. So my grandmother was always the one trying to provide. And in trying to provide, she did what we call days work, which is to go out and she would wash for persons, or she would go out and cook and clean for the affluent set of persons in the community. And out of that, I was left at home most of the time. There was no school. I wasn't reading. My grandmother felt that if you take care of the ground,
Mhm.
if you become a farmer, the
Mhm.
farm will feed you. So
Okay.
education,
It's not
though it
important.
is important, it wasn't at her highest level because she didn't really have the money to send us to school or send me to school. So I was just there at home.
So you said us. Was it you as the only child they're not going to school, or were
No,
you?
all of us that were there. I have some bigger sisters
Mhm.
who attended school, but they were swiftly removed back to Kingston. So they went back to Kingston. So at one point, I was the oldest of the siblings that was there. I had two younger sisters at the time that was there as well, and none of us attended school. So by the time I got back to Kingston in 2003, I think it was, uh, I had never attended school. So
So talk us through the first day, because that should be a memorable day. Walking into school at grade 5 for the first day.
well, how it went, um, I was in Kingston. I think I came to Kingston shortly after the election. And so there was this situation where I was at home. My carrier, as I call, the lady that carried me for 9 months, she was at home. She was never at home. She comes home on a Thursday to sleep, and by Friday she's gone. And so we were left in the care of an older sibling. And she, because of what she did for a living, she was an ICI, an IGLA, as we would call it in Jamaica.
Mhm.
So she was regularly downtown peddling her wares. So she never really had the chance to man the home either. So she came home one day, I think it was, about August, and she said, "Listen, man, you can't be in the yard this much. You need to come out of the yard." And out of that, she decided that she was going to take me to school. Uh, she got a set of uniform ready. Two of my older siblings were already attending St. Michael's Primary School. And so she decided that since I didn't have a birth certificate or any of those kind of stuff, so she decided that she would have taken me to the school and begged the principal, Mr. Patrick, to have me in the school.
Mhm.
So she went down there, begged him, and he said, okay, because he has two siblings here already. They don't really give trouble. They don't really give trouble. I am going to have have him come to the school as well, right? I'm gonna have him come to the school as well. Then he asked the important question: what was his birthday?
Right.
What is the date of birth?
Mhm.
My older sister didn't know, so she said, "I think my mother said he was born on the 26th of January." And so the principal said, "What is his name?" And she said, "We always," and I answered. I said, "My name is Julia Alexander Watson." How did I come up with the name?
Right. So where did you get that name?
About we had three young men in the community at the time.
Mhm.
Their names were Junior. There was Junior Alexander Smith, Junior. I don't remember his middle name,
Right.
and we call him Son. So there was about three or so Junior. And because that family was one of those families that was also helping to take care of us by giving us a little food every now
Mhm.
and then, and so on and so forth. They were like a middle class family.
Mhm.
So I decided, Alexander sounds great, and Junior
Right.
is a popular name in the community, so might as well I just took the name. So I called myself Jackson, and so the principal
Mhm.
took that down as my name. And so
And
it's
that's
my
what.
name. I became Alexander Watson.
Right. Uh-huh.
Um, he recorded that that's my birthday. So I normally tell persons that I have three birthdays.
Uh-huh.
I have a birthday on the 26th of January.
Mhm.
And when I was transferred from primary school to secondary school, someone made the mistake and wrote down the 27th of January as my birthday. So I went to primary
The 26th.
26th, went to secondary school as the 27th, and officially, when I was 22 years old, I decided to take out my birth certificate for myself.
Uh-huh.
And when in doing the research, I found that I had to go through the whole process of um, searching for two persons who knew my parents before I was born and couldn't find anybody. But then I went down to Victoria Jubilee based on the circumstances that I was told,
Mhm.
and I got my birth certificate because I did the research
Mhm.
and found out that I was born based on the condition that I was told. I
Uh-huh.
was somewhat breached when I
Right.
was born,
So there was a
and
record.
so there was a record, and the record proved that I was born on the 20th of January. So my official birthday,
So 20th. So which one do you celebrate?
I celebrate the 20th
The 20th of
because
January.
yes,
So you got the
because
year and everything.
I got
Was
the
the year
year.
correct?
The year was correct.
Uh-huh.
The year was correct. As a matter of fact, no, the year wasn't correct because I thought I was told that it was 1973,
Uh-huh.
and when I did the research and found out it was 74, so that's how I ended up with the correct.
1974.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Mhm.
what name were you given then? Were you never told the
I
name that
was
you were
told
given?
I was told that I was supposed to name Charles after the person who gave the sperm.
Right.
So I was supposed to name Charles, but there was a story behind that as well.
Sure.
And I later found out that one of the reasons I never got a name, it was that at a particular time, I remember when I was around 15,
Mm-hmm.
the lady who carried me for 9 months
Mm-hmm.
said to me, I'm going to introduce you to your father. And I said, what? I know the person who gave me this father. I
Mm-hmm.
knew he was my father because he was the one who, let me say this. I I was an abused child because that man had a temper issue and he would beat you for the slightest of infliction. As a matter of fact, I was so what, what's the word? I'm losing the word. I was so beaten
Yeah.
that when I got to country, Portland, to live with my grandmother, for the first 2 weeks, they couldn't touch me. I had bruises all over, right? So I can't remember those things. That man beat me with anything he could find. As a matter of fact, he would spit on the ground in the sun, send me to the shop, and said to me, "If you dry before you get back, I beat you." So I would go to the shop, see two persons in the shop, and because I didn't want that spit to dry on the ground, I run back home and tell him that the shop is good. And he would give me another chance to go back to the shop. So because I knew him, he would have me as a child out selling stuff on the street. I tell persons all the while that probably that's why I'm a poor seller of stuff because I remember walking downtown selling Horlicks, Milo, toothpaste, chicken noodle, and
But
those
you
kind
must
of
have
stuff.
had some academic background because to cash and sell and
No, it was you're told that this toothpaste.
Mhm.
I guess I'm always good with figures. I'm always good with figures. That's why I love maths today.
Mhm.
I'm always good with figures. So he would say to me, a toothpaste is for 20. It's not $20,
Right.
but let's use that. Uh, and chicken noodle is for 5, and I would remember that. So
Okay.
any old somebody was giving me less than that, I
You would
would
know.
tell them no, right? And I would always say I don't have any change, so you would have to give me the exact amount. So I
Okay.
was always smart,
To get around.
right?
Right. So you said that this person you grew up as your father. So you
Hmm.
accepted him as dad.
Yeah.
What prompted mom, or what triggered the event for her to say she's going to introduce you to someone?
Well, I really don't know what triggered it, but she brought me to meet this man, and I met him, and in talking to him, one of the striking things that man said is that we were splitting image of each other. He has some sons that
Mhm.
one day I was walking downtown and a guy hit me on the back and called me, "Oh, you're roaming." And I turned around and said, "I'm not roaming." And the guy said to me, "What do you mean you're not roaming?" I said, "Roaming. Who are you?" And the guy said, "I'm sorry, boss, I'm sorry. But I have and Romy and I are like twins,
So
and
this was a new man she was introducing to your mom.
right. So I used to go to him all the time.
Mhm.
So I was told that I wasn't supposed to name Watson, I was supposed to name Spence. And because of that, probably that was one of the reasons she was trying to give me the opportunity to choose my own name and that kind of stuff. But when I did the research to get the birth certificate, I had known him as as my father already. And so I just went ahead and said, listen, I'm a Watson.
Keep the Watson.
Yeah, I have been doing a lot of stuff in the name of Watson. I I started going to evening classes because I sent myself
Mhm.
to school after graduating or leaving secondary school.
So which
Could not
secondary
read.
school did you attend?
I went to Vauxhall Secondary School.
Okay. And how did your education progress starting at year five? Did you leave with any education qualifications or anything?
When I went to Vauxhall, when I went to St. Michael's, there
Mhm.
was a teacher, never forgot her name, Miss Balfour. She took me in, and when all the other kids would call bounce back, you know, ignorant, illiterate, she took me in and she decided that she was going to help me to learn how to read. But I only spent 1 year in her class. So she was trying to help. One of my older siblings, he was also trying to help me. But he was also like the sperm donor man.
Mhm.
He was also hungry. And so if he told me that this is A and I'm not able to recognize the A, it it came down to beating from him as my older sibling. So what I did after a while, and it came to serve me in the years to come,
Mhm.
I start to memorize the line and I start to read the book as though because when he says this is Tom, I start to say, okay, so the word before Tom is my,
Mhm.
then the word after Tom is friend. So I started to do things like that. So when he says read, I start to go, my friend, my friend Tom is, and so on and so forth and so
So you
forth.
just wrote or just
I
spit it out
I
word after
I
day.
took it as a run.
Right.
So she was trying to help. Miss Balfour was trying to help. I spent 1 year in her class. Then I moved to another class, and the teacher in that class, she just ignored me because she put things on the board and I couldn't do it, and
Mhm.
she ignored me. So I ended up at secondary school, and I went through all the pre-functional classes at Vauxhall.
Mhm.
There, those pre-functional classes were set for students who could not read. They were supposed to be like the special ed
Right.
classes
Mhm.
where you have a specialized teacher who comes in and help the student. But most of the students in those classes were what they call them renegades. They were
Right.
bad
So behavior was an issue.
behavioral issues, and teachers just come in, pass the time,
Mhm.
look forward to the bell ringing to get rid of us. So that
So
was by the time I leave secondary school. I went in, as they say, as a flower and came out as a Johnny cake.
for our listeners, smil is a UK, it's a Jamaican term, which means that you have not actually changed or anything. You might have grown,
Yeah,
but essentially you are the same that you went in as.
yeah,
So you left school without any qualification.
yeah.
Was that distressing for you?
It was while you're going to school and you're enjoying certain things, it's not a stress because I learned to be industrious, right? And being industrious meant I could do little handiwork and get money to go to school. Girls love that. That you can give them money. And so I enjoyed
I like
school.
how the producer smile because he's Jamaican as well from Portland, so he can identify with us.
Yeah. So
Right.
I enjoyed school, but when I left school, that was where the tire meet the road. Because now you're out of school, persons requiring you to have an education.
It didn't happen. All right, Gina, we're going to come back. You see what I mean about a fascinating story. We are going to go to break on LUR Live, but we'll still continue on Facebook Live. One other question before we go to the break. So, what was your first job after you left
My
school?
first job was with an art and craft company named Art and Craft,
Hmm.
and I was technically anything that they wanted to take up, any rubbish bin they wanted to dump, any floor they wanted to sweep, and then I became the assistant to the printer, and then eventually I became a screen printer myself because I am quick at learning stuff.
Okay.
So if you show me once or twice, I can learn it and I move on. So I learned, and it wasn't something that required an education. It just required you being able to follow a process.
Okay.
And so that
Where
was
were
it.
you living at this time? Were you still living with your?
By this time, I was living, well, I lived at the house where my siblings lived. By this time, the lady who carried me for 9 months, by this time, she had decided that she wanted to live elsewhere. And so you lived at a house with other persons in it, but you were responsible for yourself.
Oh. So we are going to go on break for and we continue talking, continue the conversation on Facebook, and then join us after the break when we will have our guest Julian still sharing his life story. Right. So start your first job. You're living on your own now?
Living
Are
at
you
the house
still
with siblings,
right?
but you are responsible for yourself.
So you're funding your own lifestyle, you're buying your own food and
So
your own
you're basically covering your own expenses. You
right.
contribute. So
Mhm.
if there is a meal that is going to be prepared, you contribute towards it. And we had, you see, life for me is looking at how you move, rule with the conscience, how you move to the next level.
Mhm.
So there were times when I had to sell bottles.
Mhm.
We walk and pick up bottles and sell them. Or you do certain things. You go to somebody and you do their garden because you want to survive. They pay you a little money to do the gardening, so you do the gardening. They want something to be purchased at the shop or the supermarket. They give you a list. You go with the list and you make sure that you ask persons. Probably that's why today I am not afraid to walk up to an absolute stranger and say, "Where can I find this?"
Like a studio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like the studio. I really don't like to have to be searching for things. So, when we couldn't find the studio, so this and start walk strangers, where the studio is, you know.
Now, one of the things you said with your education, you said you could not read at 17 plus. You failed math 4 times.
Mhm,
You failed English 3 times, physics twice.
mhm,
Most people would have just been beaten at that point.
mhm.
What made you decide that you wanted to rise above your circumstance? Because you had a very difficult childhood,
Yeah.
and for most people, the story would not have ended well. What motivated you? What was inside you that inspired you to actually do
What inspired me was I there are persons who don't like to hear the word church, but I sing the praises of church. Why? Because it was all right. I left school right at 17 plus, could not read, wondering what is going to happen to my life. And one morning, I got up and I don't know what was it about that day, that Saturday morning. I don't know what was. On a regular basis, I would sleep until 11. But that Saturday morning, I got up. I did everything that I could do. I sweep up the yard as My sisters would have to cuss me and
Mhm.
exclamate and all kind of stuff for me to
Mhm.
sweep the yard. But on that day, I swept the yard, I washed, and I helped. And I don't know what was happening, but I felt so different. Normally on a Saturday is a cartoon morning. I love to cartoons, still do, still just laugh at anything. And I went to watch cartoon, and I just never felt. So I went into the room where the lady that carried me slept. She wasn't there, but she always leave a Bible in the middle of her bed. And I took up the Bible by the spine, just like this,
Right.
and I said, God, I can't read. But if you make me read today, I will change my life. Don't know why I said that either, but I spun the Bible and it opened on the book of Revelations.
Mhm.
I,
Welcome back to our LUR listeners. We are talking to Junior Watson in the studio, and Junior is sharing his journey. He has just come to the point where he's taken up the Bible for the first time and actually making a deal with the Lord going forward. So, Junior, talk us through what happened next.
so as I said, I opened the Bible. It fell on the book of Revelation. When I looked at it, I can't tell you that I read it, but I can tell you that I understood. Oh, I don't know. Having finished, my sister called me and said to me, "Come and wash up the plate." Normally, I would curse, but that morning I just went into the kitchen and I started washing up the plate. I love singing. I love making songs. So I started to sing. I still remember the words of that song. It's over 30 years ago, but I still remember. And I started to sing, "Lord, if you would not allow this to happen to me, save me from this happening to me. Change." And out of the blue, it's as if the roof opened and I saw, people always say a bright light. That's what I saw. When I came back to, I was speaking in some words that I covered my mouth because I don't know what it
What was
was.
this happening at home?
Yes, at home in the kitchen. Covered my mouth. I started to wonder if anybody else in the house heard. Obviously, nobody else heard. But I felt this urge on the inside to go to church. The Sunday morning, I had only one red pants. I normally tell persons I got saved in one red pants because that's what I had. And I had a tall shirt that I had to fold the cuff down in order to be well dressed. And I went to church that Sunday morning. I ended up at a church, Pentecostal Gospel Temple on Windward Road. And while I was there, I noticed that persons around me were doing the same thing that I heard myself doing back in the kitchen on the Saturday.
Mhm.
And I felt weird, but I felt at home. The bishop, Pastor Carmen Stewart, she was preaching about don't miss heaven on the day. And she preached from the book of Revelation, which the Bible opened from the day before.
Right.
After she was finished preaching, I got up and I went to her and I said, "I want to be saved. I don't want to die and go to hell." Long and short, I got saved. Attending this church, I was among a set of young persons who were so progressive. Everybody was going to school, everybody was learning, and all of that kind of stuff. And I felt left out. So I decided I am going to go and learn to read. So I went downtown.
So at this point, how old were you? We
At
just
this
want to
time,
time.
I was about, I would say I was about 18,
18.
18 plus
Mhm.
at this time. I
Right.
wasn't fully 19 yet, but I was about 18 plus. And I told myself I want to learn it. So I went downtown and I bought some books. I don't know if you remember them. A Diggle Diggle, Cat and the
Cat and the
Fiddle,
Fiddle. I do
Couch Up
remember
Over the
those.
Moon. I went downtown and I bought some of those books. I asked a friend who his mother was a teacher if she could get some of the children's one for me. Back in those days, schools used to produce that the newspaper called
Yeah.
Children's. and I got the children and I started learning how to read. Um, Little by little, I was picking up as I started practicing, and eventually I got a dictionary. So I used to walk with a
So
dictionary
you have to do this on your own.
on my own.
Right.
Then I got the dictionary and started learning. Today, I would say there's education, it's writing, because I don't think I spell.
Mhm.
I think I have a problem spelling, and my handwriting is not the best
Right.
because of the you learn certain
Yeah, so
formulation
put the skills have to be
skills,
developed.
right?
All right.
So I didn't develop those. I over time I learned how to write, and spelling is not one of my strong points. So if I'm to write a letter, I rather write it on the computer and proofread it over and over again than to write it with my hand and send it to you.
Yeah, but that's good even then because you made a decision, a conscious decision to actually do that on your own,
Mm-hmm.
which most people would have not tackled.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's not just basic reading that you accomplish or overcame. You actually went further. So after you
Yes.
learned to read by yourself, what was the next step in terms of your academic journey?
The next step was to go to evening classes. Something that I found England or UK doesn't have. You
Mhm.
can't go to evening classes. But I went to evening classes, and over time, right, I decided I'm going to do one subject, and then I'm going to do the next, and then I'm going to do the next. So I started out with doing basic subjects first. And eventually, I did maths, as I said. And every time I failed, by this time, I had gotten a drum major. I got somebody who was like a pillar.
Mhm.
Was when I got parents. At the church that I attend, two persons walk up to me and told me, we were praying for a son, and the Lord gave us you.
Wow.
By this time, I was about 20.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was about 20 at the time. And I was saying to myself, what are these people talking about? You know, me, son, I was like, the big grown man.
Right.
But they insisted.
Mhm.
We were praying for a son, and the Lord gave us you. They became my parents. Rose Thompson and Frederick Thompson became my parents, right? And to ensure that I grow and become something, they decided that I should move in. So they took me in under their roof, and in taking me in, they realized that I had certain deficiencies. And so, mom, as from now on, when you hear me say mom, I'm talking about Rose Thompson. She would become like uh, this force. Every time I would say to myself, I can't be bothered. I can't make it. She would come behind and she would push me. Today, I have a favorite saying, one of many favorite saying, and that favorite saying is, "What man has done, man can do. If that man would do what that man has done, and then some." My mother would.
How did that feel? Because I'm sitting here listening to you,
Uh-huh.
and I'm getting shivers just for someone, a random stranger, to actually come and embrace you. How does that feel for you in terms of someone who has not experienced love and care and attention to get it at the age of 20?
Well, to be honest, because mom came first, that didn't came until a little bit after. Mom came first, and she said, "The Lord gave you to me as a son." Now, the first thing that came into my head, because at that time you had a lot of older women who were being cougars and jaguars and all of that kind of stuff. And I was saying to myself, I'm wondering if this older woman was flirting with me.
Right.
I'm in the church and all of that. I wonder, is a young boy she looking behind her
Mhm.
husband back? That was my initial thing.
Right.
And then I'm saying, but that wouldn't be. And I started going into my Christian principles and rebuking the devil and telling Satan, you're a liar. This is not going to be, you're not going to make me fall, and all of those kind of stuff. It took a bit of convincing for me to accept that they were genuine and wanted to love me. it took a while. The first gift mom gave was a key to the house with a light, with a little lamp at the bottom. And she says, you must always be able to find your way home. Always. I tend to love to lose things that I hold in my hand. So I lost the key and the little lamp. But embedded in me, I still know where home is. So if there is anything that happened to me, I know where to find my house. It's at 117 Canal Drive, Garvey, Portmore. If anything should happen, I know where to
That's just
find
a
home.
fantastic story. I mean,
Yeah,
that's so inspirational. So mom and dad became your mom and dad at a late
they became
age and a
mom and dad.
driving
Yeah.
force. So what happened academically after you learned to read? What
Well,
far did you get?
after I learned to read, mom being because I am not sure why I failed so many times. I wasn't getting the hang of it, so to speak. Mom would always come and she would say, failure is not an option. And then she would say things like, you did not fail, you just did this time. Try again. So every time I fail, I hear her say, you did not this time, you have not failed. And I I believed in that because she said those things to me, it changed my perspective on how I see not achieving a goal. And it tells me that if I had tried at first and I don't succeed the way that I have been trying, I need to try something else. So as a result of that, I kept trying different things. Eventually, I passed all the subjects that I needed to go to university. I wanted to become an architect, but at the time, I could not fund because all of these were being paid by the little work that I was doing. I paid for the evening classes. I paid for the subject. Where I failed and I could not find the money to pay for the subject, mom and dad stepped in and gave me the money to to take the subjects over and
Mhm.
all of those things. They provided for me, they cared for me, and that kind of stuff. So eventually, I went to university and I did operations and productions management, banking and finance, and I graduated with a degree in that discipline.
What a fantastic story. I mean,
Mhm.
I moved. I have no idea which direction to go. People say the 2 hours is a long time, but when you
Yeah,
start talking, I mean, there's so many avenues. So at this point, I'd like to ask, what is the relationship like at that point when you graduated with the person you refer to, the person who carried you for nine
yeah. Mhm.
months? What relationship?
By that time, I would say they have uh, some persons. I know even persons on Facebook Live, and I know even my relatives who will be watching this video would say, "Boy, that's cold, that's harsh, that's dissing you here. They could have thrown you away in the garbage bin. They
Right.
could have aborted you and all of that kind of stuff, but they carried." But for me, I don't see parents as individuals who just brought you for 9 months. I see parents who contribute to you, your development, your growth, sowing into you. When you fall, they are there to pick you up and all of those things. So by the time I left university, they were basically non-existent in my life. They were non-existent long before that, right? But even so, they weren't non-existent.
Do you still have a connection with your siblings and parents?
Let's let me be honest. We don't have that kind of relationship. We don't have that kind. They would say they try to reach out to me, but I am on a planet by myself. And I would probably say, for those who have reached out to me and I have not reached back out to them, I probably am at fault for that. But I probably think it's because of the mindset that I have on where I see myself going and sometimes what they would say to me, right? Because sometimes persons make you feel like you are responsible for them. The analogy that I would use is they raised their dragon. They went out in the field, found an egg, they nurtured the egg, saw it cracked and open, and a lizard looking thing came out of it. They fed it, grew it, it became a big old dragon, started growing fire, and then they turn around and say, "You must kill." No, I am not killing. That's not my dragon.
Right.
So I always say to persons, I fight my own battles. If you have your battles and I see where I can help you fight yours, then I will try and
But do you
fight.
think you still have some anger issues related to
I
your
will
parents?
say yes.
Right.
I'm not putting it down on the ground. And I'm not one of those person who will say I don't have anger issues. Or but I'm probably I have not gotten over it. Because instead of reaching out to me, these parents reaching out to me and say, we know that we're wrong and forgive us. And they are reaching out to me to say, you must now take us up and give us your last breath. And I'm saying, no, you did not plant the tree. Or probably you plant the tree, but you did not water it. Where you plant the tree, anything could have happened to the tree. Somebody else could have come and cut down the tree. Somebody, and there were numerous occasions I had run-in with them, right? And they weren't there. When a gunman put a gun in my face once because I was trying to make a living downtown at hours of the night, they weren't there. But now that I'm at a place where I am trying to find my footing again, I guess I will speed it up and say, because I'm now in a new country, recently moved here, I am trying to find, they would say, you now need to come and take care of this. I'm
Clearly,
sorry.
clearly there are a lot of unresolved issues
There's
there.
so many
There are
issues.
so many unresolved issues.
Yeah.
So we're going to just sidetrack and
I,
come
I
around.
know.
Come around on that. So we know that you graduated, and I mean, it's just an amazing journey, an amazing story of inspiration to people who might be listening at the moment who feel that things are not going right or education, they don't have certain things and we make excuse. Here is a young man who started at the bottom, really, started school at, that's about age 10, could
Mhm.
not read at age 17, and through his own willpower, his faith in God, and actually supportive parents actually made it to graduate it with a degree and actually work in that field.
Yes.
So you started working in Jamaica before you migrated. Let's talk a lot because I'm keeping an eye on the time.
Okay. I I left school. I tell persons that I had four jobs in my entire life. I had the job of a sweeper,
Mhm.
then I had the job of a packer, then I had the job of a clerk, then I had the job of an well, a boarding agent or a ship agent.
Right.
Then I had the job of an accounting supervisor. So technically five positions I've worked
And which position are you working in
here in the UK.
now?
I'm still in the process of getting a job.
Yeah. Okay. So in Jamaica, what was the last job?
My last job was an accounting supervisor slash ship manager.
What prompted the move to the UK?
Well, prompted the move to the UK. What they say, a man would follow
Okay.
a
Okay. We
good
know where
woman.
you're going.
A man would follow a good woman.
Right. Okay. That's not the case, but
No, and no healthy. No
right.
healthy. And I decided that, listen, I'm coming to live with God.
Okay, so your wife is UK
Yes,
citizen, and
yes,
so you migrated to come and
yes,
see your wife. So I know you just got married 1 year ago.
yes. Celebrated my first anniversary on the 9th of this month.
Wow,
Yes,
congratulations,
thank
happy
you very
anniversary.
much.
Right, so you moved over to the UK, and obviously you're looking at a job. But another thing that you do is that you're also pastor for church.
Actually, no, I'm not a pastor for the church.
Okay, because I've seen you preaching and all of that.
I,
You used to do a
yes,
big sermon.
yes. I coming here to the UK, right? My wife was attending a church
What's your
here.
wife's name?
My wife's name is Carol
Carol. Okay.
Anglin Watson.
Okay.
I call her Natalie
Nice.
because that's the name I know her as
Right.
from
She's
forever.
Jamaican.
She's Jamaican in birth,
Okay.
but in grown up, she's UK. um, I we came and she was attending a church here,
Mhm.
but we because of where we live in Letchworth, we decided okay, we needed a church closer to home. But then um, again, my mom, she said
Mhm.
to me, your uncle, your father has some relative in the UK who attend a church in Milton Keynes. Check it out.
Right.
And when we went to the church, the first time I walked into to the church, Ecclesia Ministries in Milton Keynes, I found home. The bishop there, Bishop Carnegie is just such a wonderful man, and the saints there is off the top. And then again, when you find home, you want to show yourself in it.
Right.
So they have allowed me to be a part of the prison worship team, and of course, they think that I can preach and sing. So
And I'm going to put you on the spot in a junior.
yeah,
I'm glad that you mentioned you have a praise and worship team. But you also sing on the song like that. Right. Which one do you
if I do a cappella,
Yeah.
yeah, what do you want?
Just give me a tune. Give me one of the tunes that you sing.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Sovereign God, He who sits upon the throne, your kingdom is forever. Your word is always sure. Every knee will bow and worship. For you are God alone. You reign. God reigns. You reign. God reigns. For you are God and you are God alone.
Wow. What a beautiful voice. So
Thank you.
you're very talented because you have written songs and you've actually produced songs.
Yes.
But from a person who couldn't write at age 17,
Mhm,
from a person who couldn't spell, can't read,
mhm.
you've actually written two books.
Yes.
Talk us through the
Two
inspiration. How
books.
does someone get from that point to actually
Two
write
books.
two books? So which one is your first book?
My first book was this one.
Right? Can you
We
read the
want you to
title for me?
we want you to fly what your parents are really trying to say. One day,
Hmm.
my niece came to Jamaica with her mom, and her mom said to me, "We're going to the beach." And when we went to the beach, she came to me and she said, "Uncle, mommy is just such a pain in the neck." My eyes pop wide open because, of course, you're talking about my sister, right? She's a pain in the neck, and she just don't understand me.
Right.
And I sat there at the beach and I tried to explain to her what I think her mom was trying to get across to
Hmm.
her. And when I was finished talking to her, she said, "Oh, son, I did it." So I decided that I was going to put that into writing. And I used the analogy of the fledgling eagle
Hmm.
to explain to her the responsibilities that her mom wants and why her mom is pushing her to that level. It's because she wants her to be better than herself, right? And probably that's what I want as well. I want my son to be better than me. So I normally tell him, I said, son, at 17 plus, I could not read. I made sure that he can read. And so now he's in preparation to do maths.
You're just going on to the point I was
Yeah.
going to go in a minute.
Yes.
So then we go back to the book and then we come back
Right.
to
So
children.
so that inspired me to write this
Right.
first book, and I dedicate it to my niece and
Mhm.
to my son.
And that was written while you were in Jamaica.
And that was
What
written.
age?
I would. This book was written when I was about 34. 34.
Right.
Right.
And it is, give me the title again. Is it available on Amazon?
It is available
Right.
on
Can you read
Amazon.
the title? And
We want you to fly what your parents are really trying to say.
okay.
So it is
So,
available on Amazon.
oh, fantastic. And the second book, you've not done one. Some people struggle to do one in their lifetime. You did one with a very intriguing name, Smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord.
Right.
And this is it's a motivational book.
Mhm.
And it's the name Smorgasbord, of course, is
A buffet.
Smorgasbord is a buffet. So I wanted to give the impression that you're eating at the table. And I always say to persons, you don't have to read every chapter, but any chapter you read should speak to you. And this book was written, it gave me an escape. And where did it give me an escape? It gave me an escape at a low point in my life. It gave me an escape at a time when I contemplated suicide. It gave me an escape when my world was falling apart around me. Why? Because when I was writing this book, I was married before, right?
Right.
So my wife now, who I love with every strand of hair on my head.
Give me just 1 minute, please, Julie. I'm
Yes,
coming back with that one.
yes.
So it's short. I think we're going to go to a break. My producer's outside. I hope he comes back in soon. So if we lose you on LUR Live, if we lose you on LUR Live, we will still be talking to Junior after the break. We'll continue the interview. I'm sure you're listening with rapt attention to this fascinating and inspirational individual, Junior Alexander Watson. So, yeah, you were saying about the low point in your life. You were married before.
Yeah. So I was married, and I came home evening, and I realized something. The the attitude, behavior of my ex-wife was changed, and I wondered what was happening. Why was everything changed? And then I learned that she, according to her, she made a mistake.
How long have you been married at that point?
We were married now for about 3 years,
Right.
and she said, "I made a mistake." Made a mistake with what? I made a mistake in marriage, and from made that statement, everything went downhill in terms of our communication, in terms of every form of intimacy, everything went downhill. And my reaction to it was not pleasing because in my heart of heart, when I got married for good. When, a matter of fact, in the church at Pentecostal Gospel, you are, we don't believe in divorce and remarriage. It was married, once married, always married, never divorced until death do us part. And when I saw that this lady was saying that she no longer wants to be with me, she never loved me in the first place. She doesn't know why she never listened to the many voices that I told her not to marry me and went ahead. I went low. So low to the point where I filled a bath with water one night, and in filling the bath with the water, I took up a bottle of tablets, and I was just about to take all the tablets in the bottle and just lie down in the bath and drown myself and just die. And while I was about to put the first tablet in my mouth, I heard the voice. Woman. Even though I knew the voice, it's like I couldn't recognize the voice. I knew it was the voice of God. Some person say, "How do you know it was the voice of God?" Because it was the voice that spoke to me and did say. And I realized that that was the voice. But then guess what? I decided that, guess what? I'm going to just kill myself. And the voice says, "I am sovereign." And when I heard "I am sovereign," I began to cry. Matter of fact, I wrote a song, Sovereign God. Probably that's the words of the song you just heard sing a while ago. I wrote that song, and I, I I allowed it to minister to me. So every time I sing Sovereign God, it's a reminder that no matter how low you get, don't choose death over a relationship with God because He is sovereign. He doesn't have to explain Himself to us why we go through what we go through. But at the end of the day, when He's finished bringing us through, then we would see. I would have never been in this studio talking with you, talking to the lives of the persons on Facebook Lives, or because if it had not been for that experience and me choosing life over death. So when I recovered from that low point, a matter of fact, before I recovered, I started writing this book, and it helped me to have a place that when I went home in the night and the environment of the house was very hostile and bitter,
Right.
I had a room where I could just go and spend time on the computer, lose myself in thoughts, in writing. So I wrote Smorgasbord. So everything Smorgasbord is an inspiration in a dark time, but it shows light.
Right. Gosh. Welcome back to LUR Live. I'm going to ask my producer at this moment if he could put on a song for me, please.
It's I found you.
Right. So in a moment, we're going to listen to a song. This song is actually written and produced by Junior. I'll tell you a little bit more detail about the song when it comes on. So I'm going to ask my producer to remain seated for about 2 minutes just to hear this bit. So Julian actually a songwriter, and I'm going to put this book here because I want this book to be visible so that people can actually see the books. All his books are available on Amazon. It's Smorgasbord, and so that is can I have this one? So that is Smorgasbord. That's what it looks like. Looks like a buffet on the front with Junior Watson. And there's a nice little blurb at the back that explains his life story coming up at this point. And of course, his second book is we want you to fly what parents are really trying to say. Okay? So two books that you can actually get. And I like to get something with books because it has something to hold on to. It's a part of your legacy as well. So I put those there so you can actually see them as we're going through. So I want Facebook to just listen. Just bear with me. There's a special reason why this song is being played. So just listen. We're coming with a little music at the moment.
Yeah, but that's a track. Yes. TV track. Can I go there? The other write the music and those lines. Let the melody flow.
This So this was written for your husband, from your husband to you for your first anniversary. So you made a special request that this is played with you in the studio so you can hear the song.
When you find the one you're searching for, your own. Let them ride. Let the story tell the plan. Music play, fire sing. Sit down with me. Search for home. My life is so much better because you're in it. It's that much stronger because you do it. My hope is that much higher because you give it. Oh, oh, now with me. The one you search for your own life. Let the music play. Let the music play. Let the music play.
Julie just set the bar a little bit high for all those husbands out there listening. Wrote, produced, and sung by Julia for his wife. And I know this is a
Yes.
little preempt. I did a little bit of research, and I know the first one on the person's paper. So it was a lovely scrapbook to your
Wow.
parents'
Mm,
anniversary. So
thank you very much.
you're welcome. So that is for you and the lovely lady Natalie there to start your journey and
Thank you
put your
very
little
much.
memories in there.
Pepper.
That's your first one. This paper.
Thank you.
Right, Julia. I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, oh my God, there's so many other questions I still want to
Mm,
ask you. But I think, given the start and given your childhood, the question I'd ask, do you have children?
yes, I have biologically I have one son, but emotionally and psychologically I have a lot of kids. Um, a matter of fact, if I tell persons that I only have one child, then the others say, "So what about me?"
Okay,
Right?
you
So
understand.
I have daughters
Uh-huh.
and sons, and I have individuals who I really care for and sowing into their lives. I because of the impact that my parents have had on me, I decided that I must have that impact on others as well. So
So for your, I understand the extended family, but for your biological child, did your childhood or your background impact the way you fathered that child? Were you more involved than you probably? Do you think it had an impact with the type of father that you have become?
my wife says that I behave as though I am the number one father in the world and I am smothering the child.
Right.
I must admit I want the best for him. I want him to accomplish everything that I never accomplished from early, right? I think I have set the bar at a particular level, and I always said to him, I am grown. I am the grown, and the only thing that goes below grown is that which is dead, right? So I say to him, be above me. So I have one degree at this moment. You must have a master's. I'm gonna have a going and I treat him that way. I tend to be very involved. I must admit, now that I had because of my marriage, I'm here in the UK and he is still in Jamaica. But as soon as we're able to, my desire is to have him with me because I want him to know. I said to him once, look behind you. And he says, why? I said, do you see your shadow? And he says, no, daddy, because it's standing in the way. I said, that's how I always want you to remember. So when you look around, instead of you seeing your shadow, you see me because I'm always going to be behind you.
You know what? I just read a poem just at the start of this about my
Mhm,
mom, and one of the things I read in that poem is that my mom had so many dreams, had so many desires, and of course, sometimes circumstances don't work in the way you'd want them.
mhm.
And so, one of the things we do as parents is actually put that on to our children to say, "You need to do it. You need to do
Mhm.
that." Do you think you put too much pressure on
Pressure on
him
him.
to get
There are
what?
persons who say that I do. I put pressure on him, but I try to be realistic, right? In a matter of fact, listen, in choosing schools for him, between his mom and myself, we chose basic school for him. I chose primary school for him. But when he got to the age where he needed to choose high school, I told him, I am not choosing high school for you. You must choose the high school for yourself. Because, of course, we have this GSAP thing
Right,
in
in
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
And I said to him, any school you pick and you pass for, that's the school you're going. I'm not going to run around and try to get you to another school. Any school you pass for, that's the school you go. Well, he's bright and he's bright enough to go to the number one boys school in the country, number one boys school.
This was at St. Jacobs.
No,
So why did you say
Bull,
the number one boys school?
the number one
I
boys
don't care.
school
We
in
don't
the
need
country
to
is
talk about it on my
Wonders
show.
High School.
I am not going to. It's a Jamaican thing, listeners. It's a Jamaican
Now there
thing.
are those who will say Casey, Calabar, and all that, but when you talk about academics, right, and an all-round education, and the top scoring school in the Jamaican the Ministry of Education
Right.
evaluation.
Wolmer's
Wolmer's
teacher
is
hiding.
Wolmer's is the number, right?
I
So
see.
he is going to Wolmer's, and when he decided about career,
Hmm.
I asked him, "What do you want to become?" I did not tell him that I would want to do anything. So he says he wanted to become an architect, and I said, again, if you want to become an architect, that is up to you, son. You're going to do that for yourself. If he doesn't become an architect, but he becomes a police officer, I will still be proud of him because he became something. If he if he
And he will know
fall,
that his father is there, which is
yeah,
the most
if
important
he fall below that and become a street boy, then I'll probably go and thump him in the
thing.
man. They would say that is abuse, but I don't want to
Yeah,
become
I
abuse.
understand. I
Yeah,
understand. Well, Junior, I know we've missed the first half an hour, and it's going to be reflected in the interview because
yeah.
so much we could have actually explored and actually gone into. Looking back at your life, you had a late start, but it has not hampered you or deterred your positivity in life. You still have a very lovely outlook on life. Your life is an inspiration to anybody who sat and listened to this interview. You're a preacher, you're praise and worship.
Mhm.
You're an author, you're a
Yeah.
singer, you're a songwriter. I mean, you're so many things having that late start in life that I can't help feeling inspired. Just a few quick questions. What's your favorite quotation?
My favorite quotation, I have many, but the one that I find most is that I must take calculated and systematic risk in the presence of fear and doubt. Because guess what? Life is risky. But if you remain at a safe zone and don't calculate the risk and take it, you'll fall into hole.
So true. What was your favorite book?
My favorite book, oh, is the Bible.
Favorite time of day?
Favorite time of day, oh gosh, ah, that is hard, very hard. But my favorite time of day, if I should narrow it down, I would say it is around 9 o'clock.
Morning or evening?
9 in the morning,
Okay.
and in the night it would be all night.
Favorite meal?
Favorite meal? Wow. Um, I don't have a favorite meal. To be
Okay.
honest, I am a eclectic food person. The only thing I don't love eating is that which makes me sick, and it is shellfish and them kind of
Shellfish.
thing. Outside of that, I will eat anything as long as it.
Favorite place?
Favorite place? Now that I am in the UK, it is Letchworth.
I like that.
In
I like that.
Jamaica, in Jamaica, my favorite place was Portland.
Good.
Yeah.
Looking back over your life, Junior, do you have any regrets?
Yes, I have a couple of regrets. One, I regret the fact that I never had the self-discipline from early to recognize when my own life was going wrong. Because it's not that there was a teacher at Vauxhall, Miss Radley. She was the vice principal, I believe it was. She used to say to us, "Listen, you pull it up, pull it up." And what did she mean by that? You're going in the wrong direction. Pull yourself together
Right.
and change. And she used to say those things to us. A matter of fact, she made me a prefect because she said, um, "You have leadership qualities. If you could only use these leadership qualities to become better, you would be a great individual." And but I never recognized that, and I regret that I never grabbed hold of that.
But in 5 years' time, where do you see yourself?
In 5 years' time, where do I see myself? For one, I when I sent out that I was going to be on the program, a lot of persons say, "Do you get your own radio show now, Junior?" I said no, but
Not
I
yet.
wish that in the future I will have a forum like this. I have already started a YouTube channel, JAW, sorry, Gold Nugget JAW underscore success, and I'm using that as a forum, to get my message, my positive messages across. So for those persons who want to hear a little bit more positive, you can go to dash JAW underscore success.
I'll give you a chance to share it
Right.
again. So you can share it.
So I see that I want to be in the future, I want to be an individual who is not just a 9 to 5 person, but an individual who goes to different areas, talk to communities, talk to people, sharing at conferences, like you know, I want to, rub me a little so that I can get a little of that kind of, conference
Right.
speaking ability and that kind of stuff. I would love to be able to do those kind of stuff, going to companies and to help develop their staff and
Uh, Preston, if you could have a dinner party with, say, three people throughout any part in history, who could you invite to that table?
one, I would invite Nelson Mandela.
Mhm.
That's one person I would invite. She said in history. I would invite Nelson Mandela. I would also invite, and the final person I would have to invite is my parents. Well, those I would have to invite because they're like rock. Why Nelson? Nelson showed me that you can go through people who don't believe what you believe because probably because of your skin tone, and they put you through hardship, but you still come out with a love for them. Probably that's where I need to be with the carrier. That's what I'm doing now.
It's a journey.
And that kind of stuff. And I would want to speak to Alexander the Great because at such a young age, he conquered the world. But I want to meet with him to tell him, now that you have conquered the world, you need to conquer yourself. Because he never conquered himself, he
Right.
died early.
That's the
So,
hardest part.
and that's the hardest part. So I want to learn how to conquer my foes, my opposition, but at the same time still remain alive long enough to tell the story. To be like my parents who are married.
Fantastic. Wow. What an amazing interview this evening. He started late, but he has certainly made up with content, inspiration. And if you are sitting at home thinking, I've hit a roadblock or there's a barrier to my dream, I think after listening to Junior this evening, you realize all things are possible. Now, one of the things we ask you to do, Junior, at the end is actually find somewhere in the banner, have a second one if there's no space, just write a little word and sign at the end just so we remember that you were actually here. So just to remind you, Julia, if someone wants to get in touch with you, whether or not to speak, because you've expressed speaking in different forums, what contact details can you provide?
I could provide my phone number
Okay.
07434814545.
And we'll drop that in the Facebook link as well.
Okay.
Julia has also written two books. It is Smorgasbord, which is an inspirational book. And the next one, the second one, is a self help book. It's called We Want You to Fly.
For young
What
people.
It's for young people, which is very good. What parents are really trying to say. So if you're a young person, especially if you're having problems with your parents or you don't understand what they're saying, that is a book that could help you. We want you to fly, what parents are really trying to say. And of course, smorgasbord, if you're going through a little bit of a low time and looking for that inspiration. And both books are available on Amazon for you to order. In addition to that, Junior also has his own YouTube channel. And can you remind us what it's called, please?
It is Gold Nugget with a dash JAW underscore. So
Okay.
that's Gold Nugget dash JAW underscore success.
And we will drop it in the comments under the video so you can actually find that.
You had asked about contact as well. Persons can send me email at JAW underscore success at hotmail.com.
Okay. And we'll drop all of the contact details should you require to speak to Junior after that bit. What an amazing interview. I mean, we started late. I had no hopes that you were coming. We were lining up to put on a recording show, and then all of the people you called. But guess what? Nothing in life happens before the time. And I'm so glad we waited for you because that interview was absolutely phenomenal. If you're just joining us or you joined us late, you need to rewatch this video or share it with someone, especially young people who might be leaving school without qualification, finding things challenging. You may be going through a broken marriage at the moment. You might be searching to find your faith or to reestablish your faith with God. This is a young man who has actually found faith quite early, has actually remained faithful, and is a Christian today. He's a praise and worship leader in Milton Keynes. He's writing books, he's an author. So he's doing phenomenally well given from the humble beginnings that he started somewhere in Jamaica. Honestly, your story has actually touched me deeply. I'm so impressed
Thank
and
you.
so inspired.
Thank
And I hope our listeners would have also found some inspiration and some empowerment going forward this evening. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Behind My Smile talk show. I notice a lot of people are putting in comments. I will respond to the comments after we finish the live, as I always do. Next week, we'll be back in studio again for another show. This time, our guest will be Mr. Ryan Park. And I like when men come in to the studio because men hardly speak. I get tons and tons of emails from women who want to come on the show and share their story. But men are the ones that I try to pull in as much as possible because other men sometimes want to hear their story, want to be inspired, and want to change their life. And if you have seen someone who has been through it, then it makes it a little bit easier. It makes it a little bit more possible, a little bit more real that you can also accomplish and you can also overcome. No, congratulations, Junior, once again. He's in his
thank
studio
you
with his
very
lovely
much.
wife who's hiding somewhere over there. So Natalie came in with Junior this evening. They're just celebrating their first wedding anniversary. And men, men, can you step up your game, please? Because we're going to end the show this evening with a song that Junior has written, produced, and sang for his wife on their first wedding anniversary. I can't wait to see what he's going to do next year to top that one.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
So thank you so much for joining us another evening on the Behind My Smart Talk Show. I'm your host, Vinette Hoffman Jackson. Coming up after 8 is a love light in the studio with some nice lyrics. I usually stay around for a few minutes just to rock and listen to some groove. So join us after. And we're closing now with a song for Natalie, written by Julie. Can't reach it.
Hold on, hold on.
Okay, we're trying to find that to make sure we end the program so Natalie can have something that she drove all the way. It was supposed to be last week, I understand, but then it was late in being delivered. So better late than never.
That's great.
Better late than never. Right. So thank you once again and see you
Thank you
next
for
week.
having me.
Thank you so much. So
Thank you.
get you to sign that and we'll do some pictures at the end.
Okay,
Okay?
cool.
Thank you very much. You still on? Are you still online? You can come and end it too. You want to end it? Yeah, all right, just